My name is Formosa from CommsClass, and today I'm super excited to be joined by Joanna Reymond for a Master in Media Relations Masterclass. So Jo is one of Australia's top PR professionals working in our sector, and she's kindly offered to share advice on how small businesses can get the most from working with the media. Welcome, Jo. How are you, and how have you been surviving the lockdown?
Thank you, Holly. Thank you for having me. The lockdown, each day, just taking each day as it comes. Some are good, some are bad, but everyone's got their battles, so we'll all get through it.
Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit about your agency, Reymond Communications, and what you specialise in?
So Reymond Communications is a lifestyle PR company. So we do quite a lot of work within the hospitality industry, as well as travel and homewares, design and property. But effectively, it's any brands or businesses that approach us that we can get passionate about and excited to tell the stories of. We love working with.
Yeah, fantastic. And is there anything you're working on right now that you can share, or all secret?
That's a good question. I am excited to say that despite coronavirus, some deals have been made in the hospitality industry, and there's a few exciting venues that are opening. So we've just launched, Mr. Brownie for Jesse Singh, and by the time this comes to light, it will be common knowledge that Scott Pickett has bought Long Grain, so he's wonderfully taking over that Melbourne dining institution. So there's lots that we're working on, which is good.
Amazing. You sound busy. So for those of you who don't know, I actually used to work for Jo years ago, and she's been a really important mentor for me. So I'm thrilled that she's offered to share some of her expertise. Jo, we're obviously here to talk about media relations, but I'd love if we could just start with some of the basics. So do you mind explaining for everyone what the difference is between PR and marketing?
Well, that's a very good question. And look, even for publicists, the lines are blurred. But effectively, marketing, if you look at it as promotional. So marketing is your advertising, it's any promotional materials that you create. Whereas PR is about reputation and third-party representation. So it's working with a journalist who is on board with your product, with your business, and they are interested to talk about that to their audience. And that is what PR is.
Okay. Why do you think some PR campaigns fail and others succeed?
There are many reasons. It could be down to timing. Journalists and influencers and everyone that we work with are working to deadlines. So it could be as simple as you've missed the deadline. It could be that you haven't quite understood what the hook for media is. It could be it's just not what audiences are looking for at that time. Or it could be that you've got a bad publicist.
Yep, fair point. And that leads on to my next question. So what is, I guess, some considerations when a small business is tossing up whether to hire an agency versus try and do it on their own? And do you have any tips on hiring an agency, like getting the most out of a partnership?
So it's something that I assess with every potential client that approaches us, whether they're ready for an agency or whether it's something that can be executed for them in-house. Budget is probably the first thing to consider, because PR, it's not cheap. To be done effectively and properly, you need to have a certain amount of budget to be able to provide for the campaign. So if you don't have that, then always look to execute from in-house. But you can, I'm often happy to provide a bit of a PR plan or some guidance for you in that matter. But ideally, working with a PR agency is the goal, because we have the relationships, we have the knowledge. So, that's what you're paid for.
Yeah. And so apart from budget, is there anything else that a business should think about before they embark on a PR campaign? Anything else you're looking for?
Definitely. You need to have a story. There needs to be something that we can be PRing. If you've just launched a digital platform but there's nothing there's no credibility, there's no success story, there's no data, then there's no story. The journalists are going to want to know all those things. And then on the other side of that, for example, if you're a restaurant, well, then the sooner we can get on working with you, the more coverage we can get for you, because we can build up the excitement. We can create the stories. So every business is different. So it's important to talk early on to the PR company, and then we can develop that strategy for you.
Yeah. And for businesses, I guess, that might not have the budget yet to engage an agency and are looking to do it on their own, do you have any tips for how they can identify the right sorts of media that they should share their news with, the types of media they should contact?
One thing I tell my team, just be reading the paper every day and taking note of the byline. So particularly for the hospitality media, a lot of those journalists have been in those roles for a long time. So you'll open Good Food, you can do Broadsheet, Dan Stock's Herald Sun, John McLean's The Australian, and all your sort of magazines, Delicious, Gourmet Traveller. A lot of the journalists remain the same. So seeing what they're writing about every day or every month, and seeking them out to approach you with your story.
Yeah. I mean, I guess a lot of small businesses might not have the contact details of those journalists. So any tips there? Like, is there a media database that you recommend that people can purchase, or what's the sort of advice there?
We work with some media databases, but they're not cheap. They're definitely industry sources, but there's nothing wrong with picking up the phone and calling the publication and asking for an email address.
Okay. Good advice. Great. And so where can CommsClass followers connect with you if they want to get in touch?
Well, in today's day and age, WhatsApp, Instagram, instant message, email, phone call. But the best way to touch base with me is through email, which is joanna@reymond.com.au. Otherwise, you can follow our Instagram account, Reymond.coms, or check out our website, reymond.com.au.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jo.